Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sun Up on 7. Thank you so much for tuning in this Friday and for making us a part of your day and of your TGIF vibe. Before we get into our first conversation, let me remind you that you can follow us on our various social media platforms, which are Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. And if you miss any of the conversations, you can always go back and rewatch the Facebook episode, or you can go on YouTube and then pick which conversations you are most interested in. And of course, we invite you to also share our pages within your network, like it, and of course, comment and let us know how do you feel about the different topics that we discussed here in Sun Up on 7. So I'm telling you, thank you in advance for doing that. And let's have our first conversation with author Chel Poot. And then she is really renowned for her different contributions when it comes to literacy in the country. So today we're going to find out more about her writing career and of course her new venture, which is a writer's circle. Ishel, good morning. How are you feeling today?
Good morning. A little bit nervous, but I'm so happy to be here with you guys this morning. It's always a pleasure to be able to talk about writing and writers and things that are happening in Belize in the writing
I'm surprised you're nervous. You're not on cut.
That is lovely.
Yeah, but I do media for work, so I'm used to work things, but talking about writing things is not exactly.
But it should be much more fun because you're passionate about it.
It should be much more fun. So we're
gonna make it fun. Don't worry about it. We might even make you dance. We don't know yet. We're just gonna decide.
I think I missed the dance segment already.
You think you missed it? We didn't even have it yet, so maybe we're waiting for you. You know.
Ishel is saying, "I am a writer, not a dancer."
Not a dancer.
They have ER at the end, so I think they're the same thing.
Oh. You know what's interesting? As she said, she's nervous but also excited, which is whenever you think about the physiological changes, it's really the same things that happen. So what I learned in presentations and kind of like interactions is just tell your mind, I am excited, I am not nervous. And basically, because it's the same thing,
It's
your
a good
heart
idea.
races,
It's a good idea.
sweaty palms, everything.
Greatly
So,
appreciate it.
You are
Take that mind.
excited.
I'm excited. I'm not nervous.
yes, that's
Look
the
at that. You
vibe.
preach that, girl. You preach it to the choir. But
Yeah.
we are actually really excited for this
Uh-huh.
conversation. I was telling Kevin, I was like, oh, poetry recital, yay! But first, let's get to know the author before we get
Get
into
to
all
know
the
the
good
author.
stuff, guys. So we have this dynamic, phenomenal woman, but y'all don't know how she is yet if you don't hear it from the mouth itself. Because I was saying all kind of thing, but let's hear from you. Being an author, like when did this idea start to like, let me write? Because we know we are not really in a culture that really promotes literacy and just the idea of writing, reading, all these things. So why choose that path? Why decide to be an author?
Well, like most other writers that I know in Belize, I think I know about 2 or 3 that are actually full-time writers. I'm a part-time writer. I have a day job, work that I do on a regular basis. But when I was actually about standard 4, so like a million years ago, I had a teacher who realized that I had a creative flair and the ability to write, the ability to tell a story.
Nice.
And focused in and started developing that. And I pursued literature in high school. That was one of the things I could do. And then I went on to UB and I got my degree in English literature. And everybody thought I was going to be an English teacher, but teaching is not for everyone. And it's definitely not for the faint of heart. So I've always been writing. Write primarily poetry, a little bit of prose. But it took a long time for me to say I am a writer. And that's a interesting distinction.
You're a
Like,
published writer too.
I'm
as
a
well.
published writer too. So, people would go, so you're a writer? I go, I write. For a long time, that would be my second, I write, not necessarily a writer. And then I connected with the Belize Book Industry Association and also with the Belize Writers Guild. And that kind of formed a real nice basis to work with other people who are writing, that kind of push you into the circle, help you fine-tune your work, get you ready for publication. And really and truly, the things that I've published, initial publications, Belizean Nail Soup, which is an anthology of 10 Belizean stories that was edited and put together by Feline Cayetano. In Belizean Nail Soup, that was really Feline being like, come on, Chel, finish your story.
I love Feline for pushing people.
Yes,
to do-
Feline's like, finish your story. Do this. Come on, Chel, finish your story.
I like
You'll
Feline,
finish
I
the
read it
story.
too.
You get it published. And in 2015, when I submitted for the Belize Literary Prize, it was very much my community of writing friends being like, all right, we're all submitting for Belize Literary Prize. We're all working on stories. This includes you, Chel. Make sure you get this done. And, you know, the night before, like, text messages, WhatsApp, like, did you submit? Did you submit? Did you submit? Have we all submitted? And
Wow.
so that sense of community and support from other writers has really been kind of the catalyst to help me accept the identity of a writer or claim the identity of being a writer. And like you said, because it's not something that we think about a lot, almost everybody dabbles in poetry. You get your heart broken one time or you really think you're in love and you
I
know,
did that.
right?
I did that, yeah.
I had a book.
You have that, yes.
I had a
We
whole
all-
little book
we all
with a
have-
blank.
I did
Yeah,
that
we
too.
all have like so a journal hidden somewhere or a notebook hidden somewhere where you have these lines of how much I love you and how much I hate you and how much I wish you weren't
You
here.
start off with
Right.
the roses are red one.
Yes. Right? And so everybody doubles in poetry one way or the other. So that is a medium that sometimes we don't take as seriously.
Yeah.
But then you do have a lot of poets who are creating socially conscious craft.
Yeah.
Some of my poetry is socially conscious, and what I've discovered in writing is that I like to write poems that eventually tell a story. So they move you through paces. And then in prose, what I find to be challenging some of the time, and this is one of the things that I'm hoping to work with in the writer's circle, is that we still have the idea that a Belizean literature is based, or Belizean stories have to be based in a certain way. Like you need to be writing about how you make coconut oil way back when, and the walk 2 miles to go to school, and all of these things that are culturally relevant to a certain extent, but we have stories that are evolving because our society is evolving.
I love that.
So how do we create a new voice, a new space where my story isn't about chopping firewood or pulling water from a well? Even though my grandmother in Pachacan, I did pull water from a well, but that wasn't my life in Belmopan. So where does my story fit into the dialogue, into the literary base of Belize? And that's something that I'm hoping to be able to do with the Writer's Circle that I'm hosting.
Yeah.
The Writer's Circle is a once monthly meeting. It is at Formosa Cafe in Belmopan.
Okay.
The first
Ooh, I love
session that we had,
Formosa.
it's
That's a
very
great
nice
setting.
space.
That's a
Formosa is
great
a really
setting.
Awesome
nice
space.
space,
It's an
yeah.
awesome space. And when I approached the owner at Formosa, he was so open to having us use the space and collaborate and kind of have and the ability to create. And especially in the COVID climate, writing, you want to be in the atmosphere where you can interact with each other. Because people ask you, why don't you do it virtually? I'm going like, well, you lose something virtually
Exactly.
Yeah.
to a certain extent with this. So what we do is we get together. There is a guided writing prompt. So we provide you with. I see you look perplexed right now.
I was like, what
What
do
is-
a guiding writing
Yeah, what is
prompt? Like, you do realize that that's not like something you're even hearing in a class. So please explain it for me, teacher.
So the very first one we had was facilitated by Dr. Harriet Scarborough. And so one of the other important things is that these writers meeting is actually a collaboration of my community of support. Like my flyer is designed by one of my friends, Miguelito Barrientos. He designed my flyer for me to be able to send it out because I have like no digital skills whatever to
cool.
do designing.
Okay.
You're right. It's okay, boo. You have to have the digital skills.
And so my first one was done by Dr. Harriet Scarborough. And what we did is we got the writers together. So you have a group of people that don't necessarily know each other. They've never interacted because I posted up on my Facebook and people inbox. So you have like all these random people messaging and we don't know each other. We don't really interact. And Dr. Scarborough takes us through a process where we have to imagine our neighborhood when we were 10 years old.
Okay.
What did your
That
neighborhood
sounds
look like?
cool. Okay.
So then you sketch out your neighborhood. And as you're sketching out your neighborhood, you start to mark your neighborhood. What are the memories that you have in this neighborhood? What are the things that you
Sounds
did
very
in this
therapeutic.
neighborhood?
I
It is
know,
a little
right?
bit therapeutic.
Yeah.
It is a little bit therapeutic. And then you introduce yourself using your neighborhood. So when I was 10 years old, this started during the Belmopan. I ride Ina with my bicycle because I
Oh my
couldn't
goodness,
ride.
I know about that.
Right? All right. When I was 10 years old, this is the tree I fell out of when I'm going to try teeth mango. Right? And then you kind of find all of these stories that connect. And then you have a portion of the time that you actually take one of those memories and develop it into a story.
Okay.
Wow.
And then you get to
see.
share your story or the portion that you have developed in the setting. Right? So a guided writing prompt.
Okay, now I see it.
Now I understand what she.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense, and it
does.
sounds better when you explain it like that.
Yeah, so what we're doing is, you know what the little flyer says, it's uncovering stories. How do we find the stories that are already there? And then we're building community. How do we connect with the people? And like you said, it's therapeutic. One of the things that you realize that writing is sometimes writing is for yourself. You never ever write something with the intention of publishing it, but you write it because you need to get it out. And in getting it out, you create a new awareness. So the Writer's Circle is, at its very best, just an opportunity to connect and create with other writers or people who might be interested in writing. When people inbox me and ask me, you know, what do you need to have? I was like, all right, you need to have a clipboard, you need to have a writing journal, and you need to have pens and pencils, whatever you prefer to write with. No writing experience needed,
Okay.
because we're not going to be checking your grammar. We're not going to be checking your structure. We will be doing writing workshops. So the next segment in March will be a paid for workshop because we're going to be teaching how to write flash fiction. So that's something different. And then in June, we should be having a writer's experience. So we're all going to go on a tour and do something. And then you're going to have to interact with, how did I feel? What did it sound like? What did it taste like? How did this move? How do these motions carry over into the way that I am writing?
Okay.
And that helps you to build imagery. We write best about the things that we know and are able to experience.
That is true.
That is so true.
So, like, I have an issue when I'm working with primary school students and they're writing to me about meeting their friends in the gym. I was like, which gym? When have you ever been in a gym? Tell me about meeting your friend on the basketball court. You know what the basketball court feel like. You know what the sun feel like. You know what the basketball hitting the cement sounds like. You know how the sweat feels coming down your face. Write to me about meeting your friends in the gym. How does this work?
Their imaginary
Yeah.
gym.
Yeah.
It sounds like this circle really, there's different levels of writing expertise here, which is absolutely beautiful because it sounds like it's a growth where we help each other grow, which is
Yeah.
what collaboration should be like. I'm also thinking that, is this going to be the first meeting that's going to happen?
This is the second.
The second.
This is the
All
second
right.
one. So it's
So the
once
walls
monthly.
that talk is the second
It's a
one.
Walls
monthly.
that talk
It's a
is the
monthly
second
meeting.
one.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
So in the walls that talk, quite honestly, we're going to look at how you interact in the spaces that you are. Like, you guys are in this studio. How do you interact with those spaces, and how does
wanna
this
know?
interaction? I'm not sure I want to know on camera.
You know what? Let me drink my water. My mouth visits continue.
Please continue.
Right? And so how do your interaction in space actually tell stories that happen around you, even the stories that you might not be aware of that are taking place? And then last night, there was the first edition of the Write On series with Joey Garcia and Corey Leslie. And
Corey, okay.
Yeah, so the Write On series is actually for serious writers. You're already writing, you already have a voice, you already have the idea that you want to be a writer, you want to market, you want to publish. And so that series is the fourth Thursday of every month. It's $20 a session, it's virtual, and it's an international series, really. The facilitator comes to us from the US, and it works you through some of the basics. How do you build a successful writing career? How do you present yourself? How do you self-edit? How do you market? How do you really create that niche? Because if you think about writers, if I say Belizean writer, everybody thinks DHL. Automatically, everybody thinks DHL. But we do have incredible Belizean writers. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Naya Authors.
Oh yeah.
Right? Naya
Went to school with her.
interracial romance novels. She is actually a top
Yeah.
seller on Amazon.
I think about Sir Colville Young too.
Sir Colville Young, yeah. But young contemporary writers.
Okay, then there goes.
Then-
Young contemporary writers. We have like an idea of who are the more seasoned writers, the one that we've been exposed to either through school, mostly through school. But then there are other writers who are writing for pleasure, who have extremely good stories that they want to tell.
Okay, I love the fact that there's more than one thing happening in the writer's realm. What I'm thinking is for our viewers that want to participate in these sessions, where can they follow you to stay updated with upcoming days, upcoming topics, and just connect?
For the Write-On series, definitely with the Belize Writers Firm on Facebook and
Okay.
on Instagram, because they're controlling all of what's pushing out for that. For my own things, my Instagram page is probably the best one, and that's IxyBZ, IXYBZE. And that's where I normally have my flyers, and you can connect with me primarily through that page.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So what I love about your conversation is that you've mentioned different groups. Like for instance, you mentioned the something like about the publishing agency, something Belize Writers Club,
Belize Writers Guild.
Guild. Then you
Belize
mentioned the
Writers.
firm. I did not know such groups
Yeah.
exist in the country, right? So how can people tap into those groups as well?
Well, one of the key things you can do is connect with the Belize Book Industry Association,
I did not know about that
BBIA.
either.
And BBIA, because every year in April, BBIA sponsors and carries out Book Week, which has a series of activities along with it, and normally a book launch. And then through those avenues, they normally connect, and you will see things coming up on their page that has to deal with writing and publishing. Bent Pin Press also has a
Yeah.
call for authors lately.
Yeah.
Actually, they sent out their first reel of people who
Yes.
submitted for publication, which is very interesting. And so, yeah, you kind of have to look around. I was very fortunate. My neighbor, Mr. McCraig from the book center, has always been gifting me books. And a year he gifted me a membership to the BBIA for my birthday, which I was like,
Wow.
oh, there is a book industry association. And that's kind of how I got my feet into it and started looking at it and realizing that a community exists. I really started the writer's circle or working with the writer's circle because in the pandemic, one of the most difficult things for me to do was write. And that was my creative outlet for so long. But with
Okay.
everything that was happening, I had a hard time focusing and writing. And I realized that I needed a community of writers. And I didn't have the community of writers that I wanted. So I was like, well, if you don't have it, you
Might
have
as well
to make
create
it.
it.
Yes.
But I can
Ah.
clearly see that, there are a lot of different organizations, there are different support groups that writers out there that are either professional or just upcoming and just thinking about, do I want to make writing something very serious in my life? Do I want to venture into that path? They definitely can be able to look and see there's support for you. There's ways in which you can learn the little kinks and everything, learn how to be able to develop your craft and your skills. So definitely don't think that you're the only person out there. There's nothing really a culture in Belize because you have actually very much shown that there is a culture that we're just not even tapping into. But I know what people are definitely looking forward to is hearing the poetry reading. And so we're going to do a quick little run up of the little fancy stuff that we have for Sun Up on 7 here. And then we're going to have her give the poetry reading that she's going to do. Can you tell us what the name of the poem is?
Actually, I have two that I'm going to share with you guys for
okay.
today. So I have one called City Streets. City Streets, I wrote, I used to commute to Belize City, and then I moved back to Belmopan. And before I left Belize City, there was like 2 kids that I would stop at the bus station every day, and I would buy them meat pies and orange juice. I would
Aw.
stop. And it was my last day leaving, and I realized that I wouldn't be commuting anymore, that I realized that I didn't know what was going to happen to them.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was, because the initial interaction with them was the older brother asked me if I could buy his sister something to eat. Like they never asked me for money. And so I wrote City Streets. And then the second one I have is called Claiming My Exes.
Oh,
And
hi.
it's not at all what you're thinking, Renata.
This is the shout out to my ex. Okay.
It's not at all what you're thinking, Renata.
I hope it's
But
not.
in Claiming My Exes a few weeks ago, I had to do something I really didn't want to do, like adulting 101. You know, that thing that hit you in your face, and I'm like, "Ugh,
So get her out there.
I have to do it."
Yes.
And a friend of mine had told me earlier, it's like, when you come up against something difficult, just claim your exes. I was like, my exes? He's like, yeah, exceptional, extraordinary. Claim your exes. And
I don't
so
mind
was-
that ex.
And so I was sitting down, kind of hyping myself up to do what I don't want to do. And, the words flowed.
I love
And so
it.
those are the two that I'm going to
So we definitely look forward to those 2 points.
Yes, we
here
are
at Sun Up on
excited.
7.
So, guys, quick second, get yourself together, get your exes together, and everything prepared because we're about to claim our ex and everything. So we're putting up a little bumper thing, and we're gonna be able to get her to bump you into the style. So, 1 second.
City streets. A small boy stands in the city streets, holds out his hands to those he meets, and there is a pause in time as I search my pockets for a dime to place in his hand so that I can pretend to understand what he is going through. And I don't know if this happens to you, but the minute he gets out of view, it is out of sight and out of mind until the next time I'm on that street and maybe we meet. And then there is a pause in time as I search my pockets for a dime to place in his hand so that I can pretend to understand what he is going through. Claiming my exes. Today, I'll claim my exes, that I am exceptional, living an extraordinary life. I am extremely blessed, an excellent example of a work in progress. I exceed expectations, especially my own, but I am not exempt from failures, from setbacks, from panic attacks. I'm a little bit extra, and that's okay. I am loved unconditionally, extravagantly, exactly as I am.
Woo! I love that one. Well, I love the exes one a lot because I was like, where is she going? And it just kept extra. It was good. It was really good. What was your thought of it, Kevin?
I really loved it. The fact that you look at your qualities, which we often tend to not look at ourselves because we tend to be our biggest critique.
Oh, yes.
Right? And we tend to self-sabotage. So whenever you think about how can I uplift myself, look and X out your things. So thank you, Chel, for that presentation. So with that, we take our commercial break.
But we just quickly have to do also
What's
as
that?
well. what I have to key and highlight from the first poem was super important about the idea of like pretending to understand what this child is going through, like giving him the money. And a lot of times I think it's key where you're like, sometimes you help somebody, but you don't really understand their situation. And so you're there trying to put yourself in the place and like, you're helping and everything, but do you really know what that person, that journey that person is going through? And I think that just kind of like echoed in my mind too as well. So excellent poems, Chel. Thank you so much for being here. We look forward to more great, amazing things from you and all of the other writers that are supporting you, because Belize has 501 excellence, and that's we know for sure. Next time you're back, hopefully you're not on Uncut, but you're on here as well. We'll look forward to seeing you.
All right, thank you.
And so with that, we go to our next commercial break. When we are back, we're going to be talking about another local artist and the owner of KV Creation and Paint and Splash. Hello. So stay tuned for that exciting conversation. We'll be right back.